technical expertise alone guarantees nothing in leadership. Seriously. You can have the highest IQ, the best degrees, most amazing resume, but when the pressure hits,
Yeah.
the real differentiator isn't what you know, it's how you manage, well, how you manage yourself, your own nervous system.
That's exactly it. And that's the core of our deep dive today, emotional intelligence, EQ.
Right.
We're aiming to go beyond just the buzzword, though. Today, we're laying out the 4 crucial pillars, the things that really separate the high-performing leaders from, well, pretty much everyone else.
And the promise here is you'll get insights into developing self-awareness, real practical empathy, stuff that, frankly, 99% of people miss when they're just reading standard leadership books.
Exactly. Our mission here is to pull together the key ideas from a collection of sources defining EQ. And it boils down to this ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions.
Both your own and other people's.
Yes, your own and others. Think of it like the human operating system. It drives how we make decisions, how teams work together. It actually matters way more than pure cognitive ability, your IQ, once you get to a certain level professionally.
And this isn't just, feel-good theory. There's data.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Research clearly shows empathetic leadership links directly to better job performance. But here's the picker, the sort of ripple effect.
Okay.
Managers who genuinely practice this empathy, their own bosses, rate them as better performers.
Wow. So improving your EQ isn't just good for your team, it actually helps your own career climb.
It accelerates it big time.
Okay, let's unpack this then. If EQ is so foundational, where do we start? We need to build from the ground up, right? Inside first.
Precisely. We start with the inner game, the first 2 pillars. These really dictate your personal stability, your internal foundation.
Got it. Pillar 1.
Pillar 1, self-awareness. This is the absolute bedrock. You could say it's the cornerstone of authentic leadership.
And defined how?
It's about recognizing your moods, your emotions, your internal drives, but critically, understanding the immediate, visible impact they have on everyone around you.
So it's easy to say, oh, I'm stressed, but real self-awareness is different.
It's different. It's identifying why you're stressed. Noticing how it shows up. Maybe you grip your pen tighter, or you start talking really fast.
Or your tone gets sharp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And recognizing in that moment, okay, my sharp tone just completely silenced Sarah over there, who probably had the best idea.
Oof. Yeah. That detail is what gets missed.
Constantly. And our sources emphasize pretty simple, consistent practices to build this. Journaling, for instance.
Not just diary writing.
No, it's reflection. Looking for patterns in your emotional responses. Then there's 360-degree feedback.
That external mirror.
Yeah.
Because we can't always see ourselves clearly.
We really can't. And mindfulness practices, just being present enough to actually catch the emotion as it's happening before it turns into a knee-jerk reaction.
Okay, so I recognize it. I feel that frustration bubbling up. I see I'm about to derail the meeting. How do I stop myself? That sounds like the next step.
It is. That brings us straight to pillar 2. Self-management.
The pause button.
Kind of like installing an internal firewall, yeah? Or a pause button. It's that ability to create a little space between the trigger and your response.
Controlling or redirecting those disruptive impulses.
Exactly. And just having the tendency to think before you act, especially when things get intense.
This is absolutely critical in high-stress moments. Let's use that universal stress analogy you mentioned, driving in chaotic traffic.
Right. Doesn't matter if it's the 405 in LA or trying to navigate Mumbai during rush hour, someone cuts you off.
Yep. The immediate urge, lay on the horn, maybe curse, maybe swerve.
That impulsive reaction, it's usually counterproductive, isn't it? Self-regulation stops that.
It lets you pause.
Lets you pause, lets the adrenaline settle for a second, and make a rational, safer move instead of an emotional one that could cause, an actual accident.
That pause determines the outcome, whether it's traffic or a huge business crisis.
Entirely.
So how do we build this pause button? It sounds great in theory, but when the pressure's really on, just telling yourself count to 10 feels, well, kind of impossible sometimes.
It can. That's why physical techniques are so important. Deep breathing, for example. It's not just calming. It literally activates your parasympathetic nervous system.
Telling your brain it's not a tiger attack.
Exactly. It dials down that fight or flight response. The sources also point to cognitive strategies. My personal favorite is emotional labeling.
Naming it to tame it.
You got it. Just acknowledging the feeling internally. Okay, I am feeling really impatient right now. Just giving the emotion a name, making it concrete, It instantly gives you a bit of distance, a sense of control. You start processing it instead of just being swept away by it.
That's the difference, isn't it? Reacting from frustration versus acting with awareness of the frustration.
That's the game changer.
What's really fascinating here is the pivot. Once you get a handle on the inner game, regulating your own internal weather, you have to turn outward, right?
Yeah.
Understand others.
You absolutely do. You shift from self-regulation to genuine social awareness.
Which leads us where?
That moves us directly into Pillar 3, social awareness. This is really the gateway to empathy. It's the ability to tune into and understand the emotional landscape of other people.
Okay. And our sources break empathy down. It's not just one thing.
No, and this is a really useful distinction. They talk about 3 distinct types that effective leaders develop.
All right, let's hear them.
First, there's emotional empathy. This is where you actually feel, kind of physically, what the other person is feeling. You absorb their joy, their stress.
That sounds intense and maybe exhausting.
It can be. That's the challenge. It creates connection, definitely. But relying only on emotional empathy can lead straight to burnout or getting paralyzed by decisions because you're just saturated with everyone else's distress. It needs a filter sometimes.
Okay, so what's the filter? Or the next type?
The next type could be that filter. Cognitive empathy. This is understanding someone else's perspective more intellectually.
So I can see their point of view, I can follow their logic, maybe predict how they'll react, but without necessarily feeling their anxiety in my own gut.
Precisely. It allows for understanding without that deep emotional drain.
Okay. And the third type?
The third type, and the one the sources really highlight as crucial for actionable leadership, is compassionate empathy.
Compassionate empathy. How's that different?
It combines that intellectual understanding from cognitive empathy with a really critical element, the motivation to actually take helpful action.
So it's not just feeling or understanding, it's understanding and doing something constructive about it. Empathy with a purpose.
Empathy with a delivery system, exactly.
So if I'm tracking this, emotional empathy connects but can burn you out. Cognitive empathy understands but might stay passive. Compassionate empathy is the sweet spot for leading effectively over the long haul.
That's a great summary.
How do we get better at the cognitive and compassionate types then? How do we sharpen those specific skills?
It really starts with radical listening, which sounds simple, but it's not.
More than just waiting for your turn to talk.
Way more. Paying deep attention to body language, those little shifts in tone or gaze. And crucially, stopping yourself from interrupting. Let people finish. And a powerful tool here is developing genuine curiosity, suspending your own judgment completely, asking open-ended questions like, tell me more about that concern, or what was happening right before you felt that way.
Getting their story, not just your interpretation.
Precisely.
Okay. So we've got self-awareness, self-management, social awareness. When you weave all those together.
You arrive at the fourth pillar, relationship management. This is where it all comes together.
Yeah.
The synthesis. It's the art of influence, inspiration, building bonds.
So it's about getting things done with people, not just through them.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's the ability to inspire trust, to connect deeply, even to disarm conflict, but without just leaning on your job title or authority.
Moving from do it because I'm the boss to
let's do this because we both believe it's the right thing to do.
Now, a question here. If I'm trying to use things like transparency and vulnerability to, say, disarm conflict, isn't there a risk that feels, manipulative, like fake empathy just to get my way?
Right.
Where do the sources draw that line?
That's a really important question. The line is authenticity. It has to be genuine.
Okay.
Relationship management, as defined here, is built fundamentally on trust. And that trust comes from things like real transparency, helping the team understand the why behind decisions, not just the final outcome.
Sharing the process.
Sharing the process, the reasoning. And authentic communication often means the leader shows up willing to be a bit vulnerable sometimes, admitting struggles, not just projecting constant, maybe manufactured confidence.
But if that vulnerability is just a tool to get something.
Then it backfires.
Yeah.
Instantly. It shatters trust. Real EI in relationship management means using your emotional awareness to find solutions that genuinely work for everyone involved, or at least are understood by everyone. Never purely unilateral gain disguised as connection.
Okay, that distinction is critical. Right, here's where it gets really interesting for me. How does this actually show up day to day, in the real world, in the grind? Let's talk applications.
Yeah, let's look at some examples from the sources. Think about healthcare, an environment constantly fighting burnout.
Definitely.
Some leaders tackle this really effectively, not by mandating yoga, but by actually sharing their own stories about struggling with work-life balance. Then, they created space for employees to share their hopes and dreams, not just their complaints.
So real human connection.
Real human connection. That simple act of shared, authentic vulnerability built huge psychological safety.
Okay, what about a corporate setting? Say a strategy meeting.
All right. An emotionally intelligent leader in that meeting isn't just plowing through the agenda points. They're scanning the room. They notice the subtle stuff.
Like what?
Like maybe a key colleague hesitates for just a fraction of a second, or avoids eye contact when asked if they're fully on board with the plan.
Ah, spotting the reservation.
Spotting it. And instead of ignoring it or steamrolling past it, they pause the discussion. They might say something like, "Hey, colleague's name," if we used names. I sensed a brief pause there. "Is there a perspective you haven't shared yet?"
Gently inviting the dissent or the concern.
Exactly. Proactively surfacing those hidden worries early on. That dramatically improves the quality of the final decision. Avoids problems down the line.
Makes total sense. And what about remote teams? EQ must be even harder there.
It's amplified.
Yeah.
It becomes even more critical because you lose so many of those natural in-person nonverbal cues.
Right, the grainy video call.
Leaders have to become hyper-attuned to the small cues they can get. Tone of voice, facial expressions on screen, and they need to be much more intentional about check-ins.
Not just about tasks and deadlines?
No. Regular, structured check-ins specifically about emotional well-being have to become standard practice. Distance demands deliberate amplification of empathy.
And connecting this back to culture, there is a statistic in the sources that really jumped out at me.
Which one?
This one. 50%, half, of people who report having an empathetic leader also say their workplace is inclusive.
Okay.
Compare that to only 17% for people with less empathetic leaders.
Wow, 17 versus 50. That is a massive gap.
Massive. That difference right there, it's the gap between a thriving, diverse, high-performing team and one that's likely stagnating or losing people.
Yeah. And, this raises a really practical question for you, the listener, especially if you're thinking, okay, I buy this, it's important. How do we actually measure this? It seems so intangible.
Right. How do you put a number on EQ? But there are ways. We have validated tools. We're not just talking about like online quizzes here.
No, definitely not. There's the MSCET, for example. That's an ability-based test, meaning it tries to measure your actual potential for emotional problem solving. It gives you scenarios and asks how you'd handle them emotionally. Tests your theoretical skill.
Okay. Potential versus what else?
Versus something like the EQI 2.0 or the EQ 360. These are what they call mixed model tools. They often rely heavily on feedback from others, multi-rater feedback.
Yeah, to the 360 approach. So that's measuring less about your potential and more about your current reputation, how your behavior is actually perceived by colleagues, direct reports.
Exactly. It's measuring your current observable performance reality, you could say. So the tool you choose depends on what you're trying to figure out, your raw capacity or how you're currently showing up.
Got it. And there was one more mention.
Yeah, the Emotional Capital Report. That one's specifically designed more for leadership development contexts, higher level focus.
Interesting. But it's not just about the leader's individual score, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. EQ isn't just an individual thing.
Yeah.
Great leaders work to lift the entire team's emotional intelligence, the collective EQ.
How do they do that?
By doing things like consciously establishing emotional norms. For instance, making it normal and okay to actually name observed emotions in a meeting. Hey, team, I'm sensing some frustration around this topic. Is that right?
Acknowledging the undercurrents.
Yes. And fostering collective emotional awareness. Really tuning into the overall energy or tone in collaborative spaces. Is the team energized? Dragging? Is there unspoken tension?
And an EI leader addresses that before just jumping into the agenda.
A good one does. They address the climate first, rather than trying to pretend the elephant isn't in the room. It clears the air for productive work.
Okay, so for listeners wanting to integrate this, like starting tomorrow, what are some concrete actions?
The sources offer a couple of really simple, practical daily actions. Takes maybe 5 minutes total. First, build it into your morning routine.
How?
A brief moment of mindfulness, maybe just a minute or two, followed by setting an emotional intention. Ask yourself, what emotional state will help me be most effective and supportive today?
Setting the internal compass.
Precisely. Second action. In every meeting you lead, make it a habit to start with a quick check on the emotional climate before diving into the tasks.
Even just a simple, how's everyone feeling today? Or where's everyone at emotionally this morning?
Exactly that. It seems small, but it can completely disarm tension, build connection, and honestly transform the productivity of that meeting and, over time, your whole team culture.
Okay, let's do a quick recap then. Those 4 pillars.
Right, pillar 1, self-awareness, knowing your internal state, and crucially, its impact.
Pillar 2, self-management, hitting that internal pause button, managing impulses.
Pillar 3, social awareness, tuning into others, cultivating that sustainable, compassionate empathy.
And pillar 4, relationship management, bringing it all together to inspire action through genuine trust and connection.
That's the framework.
And the big takeaway here really seems to be that EQ isn't some destination you reach, like, okay, I'm emotionally intelligent now, check.
Not at all. It's an ongoing practice, a daily discipline, really.
But one that profoundly impacts not just how effective you are personally, but the entire team's culture, its resilience. Especially when things get tough, right? During crisis or big changes.
Absolutely. When things are volatile, EQ becomes even more vital.
Okay, final thoughts.
Just this. Emotionally intelligent leadership isn't just nice to have. It actively creates workplaces where people feel seen, feel valued, understood. And because of that, they feel genuinely inspired to show up and contribute their absolute best work every single day.
That's a powerful outcome. And remember, every insight gets deeper on the second listen, so make sure you save this episode in your library.
And next time, we're diving into something fascinating. Why some organizations seem to thrive, even innovate during chaos, while others just collapse. Turns out it often has very little to do with budgets or resources and everything to do with a single, often ignored variable that dictates adaptation and survival. We'll unpack that next time. See you then.